And I told myself, oh my God, what's wrong with you, right?
Can we build businesses that are scalable? Can we build businesses that we can sell? And can we build businesses that are going to be on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the London Stock Exchange, rather than...
Sure. Why does that mean so much to you?
We weren't promised roses all the time. How do we show up when it's not rosy anymore? So
What was the thought process behind you realizing that, okay, now I need to leave?
yeah.
My guest today is a transformational leader, speaker, and the founder of Ziana Business Consulting. It is a leadership development firm serving clients across the world. Her career spans from decades in corporate, most notably as HR and transformation director at Bidfest. She's a voice of gender equity, an advocate for courageous leadership, and the host of Leaders in Conversation, a podcast that brings bold voices to the table. In celebration of Youth Month, we go deep into what it really means to lead, not just in the spotlight, but in silent. Let's welcome our incredible Noma Tshanga. Hello, Resonate community, and welcome to the best and the biggest sales and entrepreneurship podcast in the whole wide world. Today, I'm joined by an extraordinary woman I have been looking so forward to talk to. And let me tell you, okay, if you are trying to get in your Zoom, if you are trying to get your mind, your health, your business on the go, the woman that I have today fully resembles that in wholeness. And I'm so excited to talk to her. I have Noma Tshanga, who is a transformational leader, a speaker, and the founder of Ziana Business Consulting, which is a leadership development firm that serves clients across sub-Saharan Africa. Sis Noma, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. Such an honor.
I am so happy that we got to speak again.
Yes, definitely. Happy. I'm happy too. Yeah.
I really am. What an honor it is to have you. Thank you very much. As we kickstart the session, we do a 5 round of questions because we want to get to know about what's been happening in Noma's life. Okay.
Yeah.
So first question I have for you. Oh, this is so deep, but like it's hard to be surface level with you. So let's go. Okay. What's the one quote or value you heard growing up that still guides you today?
One quote of value.
Mm-hmm.
My dad used to say this.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has its time. I think that's what still guides me today. Everything is seasonal. Everything has its time. And that we should embrace where we are in our lives. Yeah.
Sure. Why does that mean so much to you?
It means so much to me because life is seasonal and life has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
And that I think the question should be, how do you show up when life is showing you flames at its down? And then how do you show up when life is presenting you with opportunities and it seems as if it's at its peak? And I often believe that, or I've often seen that most of us, we show up when life is great for us, but we never embrace and show up when life doesn't work for us, in whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. Yo, that's up. And I want to get deep into that a bit later because I think that's such a powerful tool that we need, especially for women, quite a lot that we need. And I'm going to get into that. My second question to you is, if your life's work was a book, what would be the title?
Wow. The title will be Continuously Running Towards Myself. Yeah. That will be the title.
I felt that.
Yeah.
Continuously running to myself.
Yeah. Continuous evolution, continuous connection with myself and with the Holy Spirit as a Christian. And not to chase the things that everyone is chasing, but a wise man once said, excellence is about looking at what everyone else is doing and doing the total opposite.
Sure. What do you think Noma at the age of 16 would have liked to know to keep going and moving ahead to become the Noma that you are today?
That will be, as a 16-year-old, life is not defined by the circumstances at the time, which I guess resonates with my first point. Yeah, life is not, defined by where you are now. And there's a lot of learning if you're open to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of evolution. And also just to embrace, it's like dance to the rhythm of your own music. Yeah. And I think as a 16-year-old, I was dancing to the rhythm of everyone else.
Yeah. As usually a lot of 16-year-olds do, generally. Oh, you're making me so emotional early on. And I'm just thinking about so many things. We are in Youth Month, and the big thing that's been on my heart has been legacy. And every time I thought about this word, you popped up in my heart.
Yeah.
Because I've seen you over the years just build a business, build a platform, and just in everything that you do, there is a sense of grounding and a sense of, it's like a grounding, but a moving forward, which I'd imagine in my mind describes what legacy looks like, right? It's like, and I'm awakened to this concept that legacy is not what you leave behind, but who you are. And just even kickstart that off. What does legacy mean to you? Like when you think about it, what comes up when you think about legacy? Because I think, when we celebrate Youth Month and what happened, it's essentially legacy that we're celebrating. It's something that people did that they
and
left.
that we still remember them for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it changed things for us. And that's really been on my heart a lot. So what does legacy mean to you?
And I'm so happy that you touched on the grounding part, right? And I'm gonna sort of expand on that when it comes to legacy. Legacy for me means that the higher you go, the more grounded and humble you become. The higher you go in everything, whatever that looks like for you. Because I can't define highness for other people, right? But I know it for me because I experience it every day. So the higher you go, the more humble you become. It's a total, and it needs to be a balancing effect, right? And if you get it wrong, a lot can happen. It's like the more God elevates you, the more you have to ground yourself. So I often say I could walk into any room. I could walk into any space. Take me to Ezlalini, take me to the townships, take me to the suburbs, take me overseas, where affluent people are. Like, I'm so relatable. And for me, it's about touching the hearts of those that I come across in whatever way. From the smile, to the hugs that I give, to the handshakes that I give, to the conversations. Nothing, I'm so prophetic, that's another a gift of mine. So nothing out of my mouth can be negative. Nothing. And I've had to learn that along the way, because whatever says comes into fruition. So I'm very intentional about what I say to people, how I make people feel, and that's the legacy for me. What do I want to be remembered for? Is that people felt better when they encountered me, or they encountered me at the time, before they came to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Was it always like that in the beginning?
It was not. It was not. Hence, I said the book would be running towards myself, because these are things that you learn with time. And these are the things that you kind of sit with yourself as you evolve into a better version of yourself. And that better version of yourself is not, measured against what what your neighbor does. It's really about where I am now, and where do I want to go, and where do I come from. So I believe that we are built to look at those things, to form a tripartite alliance of some sort in our lives, in terms of processing things and self actualization. So it's all about firstly going back to where you come from, and really dissecting what are the things that have shaped you to be who you are, and what are the pains and the childhood traumas that you still have to heal from, and where are you now, so that will then give a determination of likely what the future, or forecast what your future is going to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. This is coming from a transformational coach. So we're like getting the tactics already on like what to do moving forward. You spoke about self-actualization. And I think that's such a big thing, because I think we all can relate, where you encounter somebody just like, akasiboni. Like,
yeah.
doesn't that person see that they are behaving like that or that they are doing that? What do you think gets in the way of people actually getting to that awakening of self-actualization? I also am bringing this up because I think I've had a brief conversation with you around this during our past session, talking about how a lot of entrepreneurs need therapy. A lot of business owners need to, and I think self-actualization is one of those things that they need to step into. But within like the hustle, trying to get the money or trying to climb the corporate ladder, what are the practical tools that people can use or things that people can do to actually start walking that journey?
Firstly is to know why you're starting, why you're doing what you're doing. Why are you doing it? And your why will then determine the process of how you should do it. And I'm going to make this example because I remember having a conversation with someone about entrepreneurship, and we're talking about, what we, or something that is common. Most Black people, like myself, when we start businesses because we want to build a legacy. And there's nothing wrong with that. We want to leave something for our kids. We want our kids to have easy access to opportunities that we've created along the way, right? And sometimes we want to build family businesses. But when you look at how, white people for the longest time have done it, you kind of wonder, why do we always want to build businesses for legacy, right? And to live with for our children. Then I discovered that, my children may not be interested in going into my business. Sure. What am I going to do then? And I have built all these processes, all these systems to build this legacy. But for me, when I looked into that example, I said, is it possible that we can shift as Black entrepreneurs and look at, can we build businesses that are scalable? Can we build businesses that we can sell? And can we build businesses that are going to be on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the London Stock Exchange, rather than leaving legacy? That's also part of legacy, but looking at it at a different angle. Yeah. Then the processes that you take thereof, when your ultimate goal is being on some stock exchange and leaving a family business are different. So how you run your business, it's determined by your outcome. So often I ask myself, or I ask, the entrepreneurs that I engage with, what is the purpose of you building a business? What is it that you want? What's your ultimate outcome? Because what your ultimate outcome is will then define the process of what process should we then take that is going to get you to your ultimate outcome, which might be different from Noma's outcome, which might be different from Michelle's outcome. So I think it's very important that, because we live in a copy and paste, culture, and that then has diluted and has kind of reduced how successful we should be or we could be because of the copy and paste. And I think, like I said earlier, look at what everyone else is doing and just do the opposite and see how God will meet you on the opposite side.
I love that, because I think what it essentially talks to is, and you said this also earlier, that you're very intentional. It has to go with intention.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you're building, what is the intention of it? And if your intention is wrong or it's not productive, the results thereof will be unproductive. I mean, I can obviously understand from a perspective of building a business for legacy, because you're thinking there's no jobs. I need to do something to be able to cater to these people. But what I'm also getting from what you're saying is, if you build it as a JSE listed, should they want to be in the family business, they will have access to it.
Yes.
But it will be bigger than just this. Just because you've chosen the JSE route doesn't mean that now our cousins can't be employed. It just means that they'll still work, but they'll then be part of something
Bigger
even
scale.
Bigger. That was like an aha moment in my head. Self-actualization is also, or I'd imagine you have to partner it with like almost self-leadership. Right? When you were responding, you said something along the lines of being able to do, like you have to take the action, right? And you have to lead yourself. And you are in leadership and transformation. I know that you serve across literally a lot of countries, and you serve a lot of prominent people. What do you think, or maybe to even phrase this a bit more better, is what are the elements to cultivating strong self-leadership in whatever position you are in? And I mean, from the humblest point of getting up at the right time in the morning to delivering the pitch deck when you said you would deliver it, to rocking up at an interview, looking the part and being the part. Just all of those small little elements. How do we put those together?
Firstly, you have to take yourself seriously. That's number one. You have to take yourself seriously. You have to show up like you're showing up for your customers. You have to be intentional. You have to be deliberate. And also you have to have a certain mind shift, right? When you are going to deal, when you are in business. And for me, it starts with leading yourself, right? You have to find ways on how to heal yourself, how to move forward, how to gain emotional intelligence, how to not be disgruntled or, disorganized by small things. You have to have a certain element of grounding, right? That says everything works for my good. Everything. The good, the bad, the middle. Everything works for my good. And I mean, we weren't promised roses all the time. How do we show up when it's not rosy anymore? So those are the intentional things that you have to do. And I'm not going to sit here, Michelle, and say you have to wake up, you have to be a 5 a.m. person, you have to read certain books, you have to, no. Find what works for you. Find your rhythm. And I think the reason why some things are not effective or some of the interventions, it's because because I'm a 5 a.m. person, I read a lot of books and I have embarked on a leadership coaching, then I will tell people to do that. Or I would advise people to do that. But I'm saying find what works for you. Find your own rhythm and do not be shaken. Like stand firm on what you believe in. Don't be easily shaken by everything that is coming out. Not everything that comes out is for you. Yeah.
That is so good. 2 points that are being that are just heightened from what you're saying is almost like the grounding and finding what works for you. But also you mentioned something about emotional intelligence. That is so big.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we all at some point have to navigate it, but I see it a lot in women. In terms of just our ability to not, you also said something along the lines of not being easily influenced by every small little thing that happens to us, where you're just like, oh, this just happened to me this morning and now it's like taking over my day, etc. As a leadership and transformation coach, how do we get to that point of, because I mean, I'd imagine it's a process. How do we get to that point of working on our emotional? Because emotions are so, they're mine, and they're so...
And you want to own them.
Yes. They can take over my life. Everything is right here.
Yeah. Firstly is to identify those emotions. I think it's very critical. Identify that when I have a meeting with someone and someone comes in late, 5, 10, 15 minutes, it irritates me. Identify that and understand why does it irritate you, right? It could be from a values perspective or it could be from a structural perspective that you are so structural person, if you're starting a meeting at 9, you need to be, and it's an hour, you need to leave that meeting at 10, right? So identifying those, and when you are engaging with someone and then someone says something and then you blow out of proportion and you become emotional about it, right? I understand what is it that the person has ticked in you that has not healed at that point in time. Only when you understand those intricacies about yourself, and I'm not saying understand some people, right? It's first about understanding yourself, right? And embracing those part of you so that you are able to manage them better. We're not saying don't have emotions, but we are saying find better ways of managing those emotions in different circumstances, right? That appear in your life or that pitch in your life, because you can only control yourself. You can't control other people. And people will come in, people will poke you, people will irritate you. It's a part of life. And whether they do it intentionally, unintentionally, consciously or subconsciously, how do you then manage yourself in situations that may blow you out, right? How do you retain yourself? And I think that's a good trait and character of being a great leader, is that even when people say things that you feel furious about at that moment, but you remain calm and ask yourself, what is this here to teach me? It's teaching me that I must remain calm. It's teaching me that I must listen more, that I can talk. It's teaching me that I must just stay grounded and understand that when people are furious and doing those things that are not common to you, it's their own projections and it's got nothing to do with you. But what is important is when you are engaged with that person, make sure that you leave them better than how they entered that conversation. Yeah.
That's so powerful because I think, we do life in various aspects. Like we're entrepreneurs, we are moms, we are this and this. There's so many things. And what I like about what you're saying is that we have to cultivate the ability to be fully present in whatever situation that we are in.
Yeah.
And it has to start with intention. As you're speaking, I think to myself, it doesn't matter how much of a bad day I had. If my daughter wants to do baby shark, I am going to do baby shark.
Yes.
And I'm going to do it with enthusiasm.
Yes.
I'm going to dance around and everything else. And I start thinking to myself, that's how we probably need to show up in every area. That when you're at work, you need to, if the baby shark for this moment is this right now, then you baby shark for this moment. And then you baby shark for that. That for me was just like a big, the resemblance of what emotional intelligence is like. What do you think makes women great leaders?
Leading with heart. Leading with heart. Because we were built to be nurturers, we're built to love, and it comes naturally and it shows up in all the areas of our lives, right? Whether at work, whether in our homes, etc. I think that love and that feminine nature of being a woman, right? And feminine is not about being soft. It's about being bold and courageous. It's about knowing your boundaries. It's about knowing that there's no gray area. It's either black or is it white. And if it's black, I am not associated with it. If it's light, bright, I'm associated with it. Setting those boundaries and making them very clear. And I think it's something that sometimes other leaders that are male often struggle with. They always want, it's like my husband, I'm going to make an example. He always has a gray area. There's always, maybe it meant this. No, say what you want and mean it. And then so that I can, agree or disagree with reasons. Yeah, right. In whatever context that we are dealing with at the time.
With what you just mentioned now, do you think that it also has to, what do you think about personality types? I know that's such a big thing we're talking about now, I am this personality type. I know there are lots of personality type tests. What do you think about those? Do you think that they potentially could be boxing people to actually evolving, or are they giving them light to which direction to evolve? So it's like, I'm caught up between the conversation of personality type and spirituality, and particularly as a Christian. It's like, what? I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. And it's something that I've been going deep into it, in the past years. So, number one, personalities change. That's the first thing.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Personalities change. And why do personalities change? They change because personalities are formed by how we grew up, the values that shaped us growing up, how our parents taught us things, then it formed your personality, right? It's mostly in external influences that formed your personality, who you are. Like if your parents used to clap for you all the time, whether you do something that others may seem, right? But they still clapped for you. You will have confidence and you will stand on world stages. You will sing even when your song is not sounding or is out of tune because you are used to the claps. That's your personality. That then becomes your personality, who you are. It's showing up. Whether people are going to clap for me or not, whether I'm out of tune or in tune, but I will still rise and stand. That's now your personality, right? So we must allow our personalities to evolve. No one has one set of personality. Now going, and I mean the first 10 to 20 years of your life is personalities that were shaped by how you grew up.
Yes.
Now, the next decade to 30s, it's how society has seen you. you kind of, because have you seen that you're not the way you were like when you were 30 or when you are 30 and then versus when you were 20?
Yes.
You're not the same.
Absolutely.
And you feel like, is my personality change? And then you ask yourself, no, did I change? Is my, you know,
Yes.
because we are, you know, we are, society is telling us that this is your personality, this is how you are, and it's not giving any room for growth. And God is working with you, on you all the time from a spiritual perspective, and that is bound to evolve. And you know, I read or I listened to something that says, on a spiritual note, that says, you know, as you grow closer to God, your personality evolve into Christ-like personality. So what would you call that? It means that personality is not stagnant. Personality should evolve with your growth, with the circumstances that you are. And I mean, with life-changing milestones, with life-changing circumstances that you experience in life, your personality will change. And it's just the way it is. No personality is fixed, and it should not be fixed. That's not how it was meant, because it's shaped by your external environment. Yeah.
Oh, I am just like, I love what you just said.
Yeah.
And I think you've answered it for me in a more clear way,
Yeah.
because we can easily box us. I think we're in a day and age of like social media and online psychologists,
Yeah.
and where there's just terms to box everyone. Like, this is the person I am. And people say, this is just the kind of person that I am. It's like, where's the evolution? Where's the growth when it comes to that? And you know, we do a lot of like sales trainings, and somebody will say like, I'm an introvert. I can't sell. But it's like, then what are you doing in business?
But how does a skill has to do with your personality? Because selling is a skill.
Yes.
It's not a personality.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you match the skill to the personality?
Sure.
Right? And a skill is learned. You can learn a skill. You can perfect it. And you can learn to not do great in it, or you can learn to be great in it. But there is an opportunity to learn it. So I don't know how that would then match, because it's like I've heard a lot of CAs and financial people say, you know, the reason why I studied finance, I just didn't want to deal with people. I mean, you cannot be in a world where God made, you know, billions of people on earth, and you say you don't want to deal with the people. Who do you want to deal with? Every day, from the time you wake up, you're dealing with a person.
Yeah.
So it's impossible for you not to want to learn how to lead people or how to deal with people, because you are going to deal with them whether you like it or not, because that's how the world is wired. That's how the world is. It has people in it, and we are meant to deal with people every day.
Sure. It almost seems like we are afraid to grow, or essentially come out of what we've been labeled as. And I think when you reference like between your 10 to 20, you're a certain way, and then after 20, you've got the freedom to now decide who you want to become as a person, as a mom, as an entrepreneur. And you are now having to figure that out. So you can either choose to stay the same or evolve. Why do you think we're so scared of like that growth?
I guess it's from a frame of reference of external forces. I've always been this person. It's comfort. It's comforting. It's to know that I'm in my cocoon of being an introvert. It's comforting for me. There's no expectation. That's another thing, because we are afraid of shooting out, because we don't know if society is going to embrace the new version of ourselves, right? And the question is, are you shooting out to be embraced, or are you shooting out to evolve as a better version of yourself? So comfort is always where we want to be. Growth seems scary. Because it comes with a lot of challenges. It's like, I always say, there's no point in growing if you have not ascertained what your threshold of pain is. So growth is equivalent to pain, or pain is equivalent to growth.
You know, when you say that, I just remembered I want to share with you this. I had this experience yesterday. I was like, oh my God. It was like God was just saying something to me, and talking to that around growth and comfort. So just to dial it back a little bit, a friend of mine, Madema, gospel artist, had women come worship yesterday. So I put my whole outfit together. It's according to theme. I look good. So see, like I was I look very good. So the event goes, and I think at about like an hour or two before the event ends, the event was like for a full day. An hour or two before the event, I don't know what I was doing, but it's like in that moment of worship, I just looked down at my feet and I looked at my shoes and I told myself, oh my God, what's wrong with you, right? So for context, I'm wearing this pair of shoes that they're old, right? But they're always in my car. I have them all the time. They are so comfortable. I rarely look at them anymore, right?
Yeah.
However, in the same light, I've got a similar pair of shoes because I really like the color and everything that is brand new. That's beautiful. It was even like, it was so expensive. It's lovely.
Yeah.
But as soon as I got there and I was changing shoes from my comfortable driving shoes, I took the old shoes out of reflex, put them on, went because they're comfortable. Like the new ones, I'm still trying to navigate,
Figure yourself out.
figure myself out in them. And I just remember the Holy Spirit saying to me, do you see what being familiar does? These shoes are finished. And I keep thinking to myself.
And you don't even see that they are finished.
Zero.
Because it's like it's an easy reach.
Yes.
It's comfortable.
Yes.
I know them. It's familiar. Yes.
I spent the whole day interacting with people. Not for once did I look at my shoes.
And then towards the end, you're like,
Towards the end, I'm like, I was shocked. But I realized that.
So you even pick them up unconsciously.
Yes.
Yes.
Like I wear these shoes so often to a point where I got this new pair because it was just like, okay, I need to give these ones a rest.
A break. Yeah.
But these ones, it's like my feet and them, we are so wired together. And it's like the Lord was ministering to me on comfort and how it's so easy to reach. It's like you've got a brand new, like good brand, very expensive pairs of shoes. They're in your car.
Yeah.
But you are not wearing them because you're so comfortable with this old, like that. I was just like, I can't believe I've been walking around the entire day and interacting with people and having such a good time
With these shoes.
with these shoes. And I'm so reminded about that when you share around, just being able to be comfortable, to just maybe being awakened that sometimes getting out of that comfort zone is just opening your eyes and checking and just looking.
Literally, it's that. It's opening your eyes, check around you, look where you are, look where you want to go, because where you want to go is a campus.
Yes.
It's going to tell you that there's certain things and certain changes, certain shifts that needs to happen. And the shifts come from your mind. It starts in your mind.
Yeah.
You have to have a mind shift towards things. You have to embrace life. You have to want to show up. You have to, life is so beautiful, man.
Yeah.
That's my mantra. Life is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful as in with its greatest challenges, greatest pains, but it's still beautiful.
The beauty of it for several people is like trying to figure out how to step into their entrepreneurial journey, which is like, I'm in this corporate and I've got this passion for this business. So I'm running this side hustle and I want to give it my full time. And I'm privileged to know a bit of a story around Ziana as well, but I want to bring it up again in this conversation because you are a trailblazer in the corporate sector.
Thank you.
And then you leave all of that, the pension, gonke, to start your own business.
Yeah.
What was that move like? And why was that so important to you at the time? I say at the time because I'd imagine it's easy for us to say now because we can see the fruits, we can see the success. But at the time, it did not exist. What was it? Just take us through that. What was that like? What were you thinking? Do you already have full cost business to say no? As soon as I jump in, it was all right. What was the thought process behind you realizing that, okay, now I need to leave?
Yeah.
And then setting a business up? Because we both know setting a business up is no child's play.
It's not.
And for yours to exist for as long as it has existed and gotten the success you've gotten takes a lot of work. What's that been like?
Firstly, I think it would be very important to give the audience just some context, right? In terms of where I was. So I was in a corporate job within a multinational corporate as an HR and transformation director. I feel that at that point, it was God that just didn't want me there. I lost to exit the business. I had to lose myself. I had to lose a part of me in order for me to go into corporate. It was not something that I have been thinking about for years, but it's something that has been in my unconscious mind for quite a long time. I'm going to give a backstory. My parents are entrepreneurs. My father was an entrepreneur before he passed on. So I grew up we owned supermarkets. I grew up in supermarkets, and my dad has never worked for anyone. He's always worked for himself up until he passed. So that has always been my frame of reference. That's what I know, I don't have a picture of someone waking up to clock in at 8 o'clock and then clock out. I've got a privilege of watching my dad, starting a business from ground zero, building the business is failing, dropping it, recouping, restarting, re-energizing, starting again, right? That has been my life. And even, trying to diversify, go into other businesses, and then it doesn't work out, it fails, etc. So I've watched all the phases of business and running and sustaining a business, and I knew that this is what I want. Actually, in my life, this is what I want. But growing up in an environment where your parents were uneducated, my dad, I speak about this all the time, went up until high school. My mom never even finished primary school, right? Wow. So one of their goals was to ensure that the kids, go to university and graduate matric, and then go to university and graduate and then get a job. That's what they know. They always believe that no one can take your education away from you, right? And I think it's because of my dad's business misfortunes where he was driving us onto that direction to say, because he used to say to us, and I remember it later, like in retrospect, because he used to say to us, I believe that if I had a business qualification, maybe I would have made decisions differently than how I just ran the business by grace, I guess. So that then, was transferred to us to say education is first, number one. Then you go and work, right? Because there's never been anyone working for a professional, yes, right? You work as a professional, a lawyer, a teacher, whatever that looks like, but you have to work after you. So that's the channel that I took because that's what they drove. There's something that I've watched with my parents is that everything that my dad touched turned into gold. And not because he was blessed, but because there was a lot of hard work, a lot of determination, a lot of putting yourself completely in the thing that you are doing, not half-heartedly, right? So subconsciously, those were embedded in me growing up. And I never knew. Then as I'm growing up, I think around grade 4, 5, people started to recognize my light before I could recognize it. I've got people now reaching out to me on social media, especially Facebook, like those that I went into primary school with, high school with. They say, we're not surprised. All of this, we're not surprised. It's always been in you. We always knew that you were going to be big, whatever that big is, right? So it's that. So when I went into corporate, I just had to give that context. So when I went into then corporate, I knew that I need to work and I need to work for me. And when I was in corporate, I also knew that excellence is the only thing that's going to differentiate me from the rest, right? And I wanted to learn the things that people didn't want to learn. I want to be involved in the things that people didn't want to be involved in. And my growth accelerated so fast that, within 5-6 years of working in corporate, I already secured a managerial and then a director role, an executive role, etc. So I knew that that's my mantra. That's my line of work. To a point that I don't start anything that I'm not going to finish. That's number one. Wow. Number two, I don't start anything that I don't think in my eyes it's going to be excellent, right? And I'm driven by that. I always sit around now and say, I could do a lot of things. I know I could. I'm just one person. I've got so much capacity, right? And I might not be able to. But I know if I want to go this direction and I put my mind to it, and I would excel in it. It's just that I choose because I know I'm only one body, one person. So I have to balance family and work. So entrepreneurship has always been something that I knew I was going to get into. But when I got into that last, 2 years before I transitioned into corporate, I registered a business. I don't know why I registered a business. But I was like, no, I've got this urge, this thing that you need to register a business, right? So as I was playing around with names and stuff, I fell pregnant. I fell pregnant. I carried my pregnancy up until about 7 months. And then, one day I woke up on Saturday and I had to go to the hospital, and we gave birth to a baby, and then the baby lived only for 45 minutes and I lost the baby. And then already we had started to talk about names of the baby that would then be the name of the company. And that name was Ziana. So that's how Ziana was then, registered. So I didn't know that in order for me to fulfill Ziana's purpose and Ziana's, I guess, life, post living would then mean carrying on with the business. Right. But that's how it happened. So I was pushed out of corporate. It was draining. It was strenuous. Remember walking into the office one day and being told, after I had come back from what we call a 6 weeks leave, because I've just had a stillborn, because of course they couldn't quantify what it is, whether it was a miscarriage or a stillborn, because the baby was fully formed, but the baby only lived for 45 minutes, right? But I guess legally they termed it stillborn. And so I was off for 6 weeks. I remember calling my boss and saying, this is what happened to me. And in that, I'm going to take about 4 weeks. I'm not going to take this full 6 weeks because I know you need me. I know I left projects hanging. And this just happened because we knew that only in 2 months I was going on maternity leave. And when I walked into the office those times or those days, I could feel a shift in energy. I could not put my finger on it. Week 1 passed, but week 2, one day I received an email calling me into a meeting with my CEO at the time and the company's lawyer, and telling me that my job has been reshuffled in 4 weeks. In 4 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
My job has been reshuffled. Certain parts went to the CFO, certain parts went into the CMO, and then I was left with a certain portion, let's say about 50% or 60%. And then I had to ask myself, because I take my job seriously. I don't do half measures. And I wouldn't want to be granted with half measures to deliver on. Then I had to make a decision based on that discussion, what happens next. I remember then having a discussion with my husband. My husband said, you know what, you have already registered this company 6 months ago. Maybe this is God's way of telling you that it's time. It's time to go. Because I could feel the energy has totally shifted. And I knew that staying here would mean getting more bruised, right? So I then negotiated my way out. And so that's how I started, because I knew I had 6 months of trying in this thing. So then I jumped into Ziana.
Sure. I guess I get goosebumps every time you tell the story, because I think a lot of people can resonate with that. But more than anything, for me, it becomes a true testament of like having turned a painful situation into almost like a testimony. The reason why your business is so memorable to me is because my daughter's second name is Ziana. And that name, I think on a spiritual level, just means so much. And I cannot imagine just having to go through that. And you have this business that is a constant reminder of this precious gift. And sure.
And I had to, continuously remind myself. I think one day friends of mine came into the house to offer comfort and some flowers, etc. While I was going through this transition. And then they picked up that, like, you're not sad, like, you're not depressed, you're not having curtains closed down, because if it was me, this is what I would do, losing a child and then losing a job, trying it out. I mean, yes, you've started the business 6 months ago, but it might, your plan might have been to stay 2 years and then see after 2 years how you're going to, just to plan better around it. Then I said to them, you know what, because I'm highly spiritual. So I said, there's a feeling for me that, so God breathed life into the business. So when Ziana lost his breath, that was then transferred into the business. So the life is the business. So my life is the business. My life is Ziana.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's, yeah. But I mean, it's all about, how you... I'm going to go back to everything works for my good. Nothing works against me. Even the negatives, even the harshest pain, it's working for me, because I don't believe I would have experienced the legacy that we're talking about, the changing of lives, the changing of women's lives, right? The imparting of knowledge if I was still in corporate. So all of that was orchestrated for my good, not against me. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It's such a vulnerable thing to share. So thank you for sharing that. What at the time gave you that insight and that strength? Because I mean, this just happened, and the job thing just happened. Yes, starting a business is great, but it's also difficult, and it needs you to be fully present and be there. And we have a lot of people who we interact with, and you realize that somebody's like, I want to start this business, but emotionally I don't feel well. I just lost this parent. I just went through a divorce. Or there's so much happening, which goes back to what we're talking about, the things that happen internally and our emotions, which are very real and true. But how did you manage to work through them while you were on the ground and actually doing the work to build the business?
I think it's very important to take each day as it comes, right? And at that time, it was critical for me to take each day as it comes and not to overwhelm myself, right? Try to process what I'm going through, but at the same time, be available for the business, right? In order to grow the business. The support structure, I would never take for granted, from my husband, from my children, and just from a circle of people that were rooting for me, rooting for my success, right? And that's always, I'll always root for people, because I believed it worked in me, right? And it worked for me. So I had people that said, no, don't worry. I had my former boss who became my mentor at the time I was in corporate, that said, no, I'll give you 6 months of consulting. The same company that I worked in and I transitioned to, they said, no, don't worry, we'll give you like a 6 months contract on recruitment. You can recruit for us. So I think it's also very important to transition graciously and not burn your bridges as you are going through things, because imagine if I had thrown my toys out of the court. Imagine if I had taken them to the CCMA. Imagine if, I had taken them to court and all those things. I would not have gotten that business. Then in that first year, I was able to have 2 reputable references or 3 references that I can then start to engage with potential clients to say, I've done this work for so-and-so. So I think the support is important, not to burn your bridges, and taking one day at a time. And I think also what's important, because I was framed from a corporate structure, so I knew how to run a business.
Yeah.
Yes, I knew how to run a business.
You had a
because
big
I've seen
role
it
as well.
Yes, and because it exposed me to all the facets of the business. So, for instance, I never started with a Gmail account. I knew that when I registered that business, I need to have a website with a proper, email address, with a proper web address, with a proper telephone. I remember I bought this. It was 600 rand from probably from Telkom.
Yeah.
It was not a smartphone, like a
Like
small old thingy phone.
dilly,
Yes. And then that I then got a number, an 012 number that was going straight into that phone.
Nice.
So it doesn't matter where I was. If that phone rings, I drop everything because I know it's work. And then I'm able to answer it as if I'm the receptionist. And I was.
Yeah.
Right? So those elements of professionalism while you're trying to figure out who are you going to get as your receptionist. I was working from home for 6 months.
Sure.
Then I transitioned into working for Rigas, at Rigas, where I would rent out a space for 2 days out of 5 days. That's what I could afford. Then later I rented 3 days. Then a year later I rented 5 days. I could sort of rent it out, even though it was still a shared space. And then I moved from a shared space to a single office.
Yeah.
So all of that, I believe, growth should be organic. Growth should be organic. It should not feel like it's a huge jump. And I'm not saying that you cannot be blessed with that.
Yeah.
You could. But you should ask yourself questions. What did I miss if the jump is too high? Right? What are the processes? What are the processes that we miss? So I believe growth should be organic so that you embed and immerse yourself in the processes of each and every stage of your business. Now, 9 years later, there's no one that can tell me anything from any department in my business. I know it in my sleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yo, that is, it's like, when you're talking at it, I want to write down notes because there's so many things I still want to touch on. I want to touch on the whole, you mentioned that you're working from home from 6 months and you started working at Rigas. And obviously after 2020, and I won't mention the name, after 2020, there's been a work from home revolution.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around working from home? Is it advisable? And I think obviously for a lot of entrepreneurs, it could be usually a bit more manageable as you start. But what I'm hearing from your journey is, you then transitioned into, hiring those 2 days, those 3 days. And I imagine they meant something. What are your thoughts on working from home? Do you think that somebody can build a successful business and be working from home?
Shall I be honest?
Please.
Okay. I'll give you my honest feedback. There's 2 ways to look into it, right? And I'm going to talk from an entrepreneurial perspective, not from a big corporate perspective. And I'm going to tell you why I'm referring to that. From an entrepreneurial perspective, right? And from me having engaged with entrepreneurs where we lack systems, we lack processes, we lack structures, right? It is not advisable to have people working from home when you don't have the right systems, you don't have the right structures, you are still building, right? Because the working from home is an output of the inputs, which are systems, processes, structures. If you don't have those, or they are not firm and stern enough, how are you going to measure your people when they've worked home? How are you going to know how many calls they made when you don't have a system? How are you going to account? How are people going to account for the 8 hours in a day when they are working from home if you don't have systems? So where there's shaky systems, no systems, building systems, processes, structures, it's not advisable. From a big corporate perspective, where they've got full-on systems, full-on structures, full-on measurement tools, full-on digital AI, they've embraced it, and now they are now evolving into this new digital transformation. There it works. It works because at any given point in time, someone is able to see that you are interactive in the system because a corporate has dashboards to monitor that.
Yeah.
But a small entrepreneur like mine and yours, we don't have dashboards. Those systems are expensive. So it is not advisable, right? But also you have to look at roles. What roles do you want? Even in big corporates, there was a study that was made that client-facing roles, it's not advised for them, even in corporate, to work from home because client wants to see you and etc. all of that. So it's quite different. But more technical delivery, then you can start to see maybe it's beneficial for them to work from home as long as you can measure, manage and monitor, right? So those are the 2 streams. Assess your business. Check the readiness of your business, whether is your business ready to work from home. I've had this conversation with my team They've been crying since COVID that why can't we, because they, of course, we did have an opportunity to work from home. Then I said to them, it's maturity of the people that you've hired, right? The skills of the people that you've hired, the structure within your organization, the systems that to deploy, the everything works. If all of that works, then you can deploy a working from home strategy. But if all of that doesn't, you are going to lose money as an entrepreneur.
Yo. I think you've just changed a lot of entrepreneurs' lives.
Yeah.
By saying that, because it's so profound and so true. And I've also seen it in my journey where there's a difference between, and it's also like just stepping into what is a work environment. And maybe it's just a psychological thing, but you just show up differently when you go to the office versus when you are at the desk, kaluko melon at the back.
Yeah.
You can hear somebody playing with a football, and there's just so many things that are happening from a mental perspective. It's very different, and I think it's important. And maybe the tool that you shared is like, maybe sometimes get the 2 days and then do the other
transition.
days. Transition the other 2 days until you can afford.
And also is to embed a culture.
Yeah.
You culture is not an afterthought, right? If your culture when you were working in the office was not conducive, how are you expecting people to adopt the same culture while they're working from home? It's impossible. You will then have people that are wearing pajamas while they are on a Zoom team or they're not taking it seriously because it's a cultural thing. So you first have to embed your culture, right? And people have to understand your values, your culture, and the expectation. And they have to be managed and monitored with that. And there has to be consequence management when they are not adopting what your desired culture should be. So it's a way of looking at your business honestly and really stripping it and see, are you ready? Because like I said with my team, I told them, you're not ready. I'm not ready. Let's work. I said, let's build. At least in the next 2 years. If you can show me you're ready, I can show that I'm ready from a systems perspective, and you can show me you're ready from a cultural and accountability and ownership perspective, then we can look into transitioning into working from home in 2 years' time. But I don't want to set you for failure, and I don't want to set the business for failure.
I love that, because what you're also highlighting is that, and a lot of people, especially that are employed, would think that people don't want them, their boss don't want them to work from home because it's micromanagement. It's like, oh, you want to see me all the time. But it's like, no, it's actually falling into systems. And I love the clarity you're bringing into, especially for small business owners, because it's easy to then deploy your small little team of 3 people to work from home. But it's like things are not getting done. So therefore, we are not making money. And therefore, we will be in the same position for months to come if nothing else changes. So you realize that it's actually cheaper to pay for those 3 days than it is to lose the amount of money you're losing right now. That is just big. You mentioned culture. And as even just my conclusion or the concluding question, you mentioned culture, and I couldn't help but reference culture with legacy, because essentially that's what speaks to an organization or just, and I think every home has
culture, yes.
Every culture, like we have a way of doing things. You know that when you walk in, this is where you put your bag. You know, certain things are done a certain way, even in organizations and in our daily lives. How do we start building culture from a small business? And I say this because when we leave corporate, we like, yo, basile aba, they are so terrible. And I won't let that happen in my business. In my business, I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be nice. And I'm going to do this. And then while you are in it, you realize, oh,
I now understand. I now understand why my bosses were frustrated.
They were not terrible people. Yes, they could have learned how to communicate better and not being toxic, but I have compassion for them now. How do we build culture in our businesses from the conception of like having the small team, because we obviously want to grow, in a way that is sustainable and in a way that, if it is even possible, brings in Ubuntu in the mix, you know?
I want to look at it from an opposite direction, right? From a point of saying, what type of culture you don't want first, instead of asking what type of culture you want. Because as entrepreneurs, we struggle a lot with identifying the culture we want because we have not been exposed to the culture we want. We've got it in our heads, but it's very difficult. And most of the time, entrepreneurs and founders and CEOs are visionaries. They're unable to translate what is in their head to become tangible and executable, right? So firstly, maybe instead of looking at what type of culture do I want, is to maybe look at it from an opposite direction and say, what type of culture I don't want. Then once you document the culture you don't want, then you ask yourself, what are the consequence management should I see this culture coming up? And what are the things that I should do to avoid the culture that I don't want? Maybe let's look at it like that.
Yeah.
Then it will be much easier, because I think, like I said, it's very, even if I can ask you now, Michelle, what culture do you want? Right? You're going to touch on values, you're going to touch on mission, you're going to touch on integrity. It's all those things. They're all the fancy words. But on an everyday, and culture is everyday. It's how you show up every day. And I mean, if you are sending an email with regards to a report that you need from your subordinate as a leader, right, in your business. That report comes in, you said, I want this report. Can you please send it to me by 1? You've given it 2 days ago as an example. That report comes in at 1:30, right? You accept the report with enthusiasm and excitement. You interrogate the report. You do what you need to do with the report. You are creating the culture that you said you don't want.
Sure.
Because once you start, people start to realize that there is no consequence for me sending a report at 1:30 when my boss wanted it at 1, right? Then the next day they will send it at 2. Another day 2:30, and then by the time you know it, you want a report today, you receive it tomorrow, because there was no consequence. And I think corporate struggles with it. I know I was in an HR department. Corporate struggles with consequence management. And why do we struggle? And that's why our cultures will never be fruitful, or we will never experience the fullness of it, because there is no consequence management. There is no point in putting all those nice words, integrity, etc., but you don't know how you are going, what type of consequence, and how are you going to deploy consequence management if those things are not fulfilled. And the reason why we don't like consequence management is because we have to then dive deep into critical conversations, difficult conversations with the people that, Michelle, I have sent you an email 2 days ago. I was expecting, as per my instruction, that the report will be on my desk or on my email at 1, but you sent it at 1:30. Tell me what could be your challenges. Why did you send that report at 1:30? I am informing you this so that next time, when I want a report at 1, then I expect a report at 1:00. If the report doesn't come at 1:00, this is what is going to happen. It's not the culture. It's the difficult conversations that we struggle to have as humans, because we feel like we are tapping into the emotions of people, that people are going to feel less of, people are going to be disgruntled, and we don't want to manage those. So we'd rather leave all of that and focus more on the culture part. But the culture part is just 10% of the full spectrum of running an effective business.
You've touched on so much, and I want to, as I conclude, dig into this thing that you've just introduced now, which is having difficult conversations. We've spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs on the podcast, men and women, and they will always say, like, the difficult conversations are the hardest to have, because it's like we don't want to feel the discomfort of the other person, and they're going to be sad, or now we are the terrible bosses we ran away from, and there's so much. And I would like us to I would like you to please give us tools on how to actually is there a tactic to have these difficult conversations in a way that doesn't make us feel like that? Or even if that feeling still exists, how do we manage them? Because I am learning that as an entrepreneur, you will bear the consequences of the conversations you did not have. From a revenue point of view, from an emotional, from a client, like they
will show.
They hold such a ripple effect that by the time you are awakened to them,
and you
will then blow up to the rest of the team, including yourself, because you failed to manage it at that micro level when it started. So how do we start?
Firstly, you have to manage your emotions. You have to deal with your emotions.
Yeah.
You know, if a client wanted that report in that example at 2:00, then you requested it 1:00 because you just want to scan through it to see if everything is covered so that you are able to send it to a client, right? You will be furious if that report comes in at 1:30, even though you're not going to deal with the person. So we often take all that burden, right? We cover it with each and every interaction, with each and every employee. And then one day we burst out and it affects the whole team morale. Rather than dealing with the little things. It's nothing big starts big. Everything big starts small.
Sure.
How do you then deal with the small? So for me, it's all about removing the emotions at work. And I'm talking to entrepreneurs. I am one myself.
Yeah.
Even with our recruitment strategies, are you recruiting for fit and skill, or are you recruiting because you feel sorry? Because if you've got an influx of employees where you've recruited because you feel kind of sorry for, because of their circumstances at the time, you are not going to have difficult conversations. If you were recruiting for fit and purpose, and you were recruiting for skill, you are going to have those difficult conversations because they are not attached to an emotion. So it's the emotion that's making us not to have this difficult conversation because we are too emotional. We are too invested. I mean, I had to learn that everyone that walks in at Ziana and works at Ziana is strictly an employee. Nothing big, nothing less. Strictly an employee. Here to deliver, here to get a salary.
We're
And
not family.
and the expectation normally is that we as black entrepreneurs, small entrepreneurs, we overextend ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't have the boundary. We then end up knowing my employee's partner, where my employee went over the weekend, what my employee has been up to this weekend, social, circles of my employee, etc. Once you start to engage in all those external factors, they cloud you and they cloud your judgment. Then it's difficult to have critical conversations when you've been having weekend conversations with them. Boundaries are critical. And removing your emotions from it so that you can, and someone once said when I was in corporate, no man, you don't fight the man, you fight the ball. The ball is delivery. The ball is revenue growth. The ball is sales. The goal is client centricity. I'm not fighting the person. I'm fighting the ball.
Yeah.
I'm fighting what needs to be done, what needs to be delivered. It could be you that don't deliver. Tomorrow, I'll deal with you. A day after someone else, I'll deal with you. Because I'm not fighting the people. I am fighting the delivery and how your business needs to grow and show up.
Yeah.
So that we don't have this high percentage of failed young black entrepreneurs that never make it to 10 years because we did everything that we're not supposed to do.
I think this episode is going to save a lot of entrepreneurs' businesses in terms of structure and systems, which is important. Final, drawing the line question. How has spirituality aided to your journey as an entrepreneur with all the ups and downs?
It has done a lot. It has done a lot. It has humbled me. It has grounded me. It has comforted me. It has loved me. It has done everything for me. It's like literally, it's my go-to. I feel like if I'm not spiritually filled, there's nothing that I can give to the world. It's my anchor. And I think for the longest time, Michelle, even with Brunch, with Nomas and all these platforms that I've done, I would be speaking on spirituality. I've always been a Christian, right? I would be speaking on spirituality. And then I will speak on higher power. I will speak on the universe. And I think this year, God has been telling me that if you are journeying with me, you will mention which spirit you are living with or living by, and that's the Holy Spirit. So I'm no longer afraid to get into conversations now and try to mention higher powers because I'm trying to know if it's concerning me, it's going to be the Holy Spirit. But if I'm considerate of everyone in the room, I say whatever you believe in. But if it's concerning me, it will have to be the Holy Spirit.
Yo, that is power. And I think especially a lot of people in our field, I say our field in terms of like you occupy a certain sector within the business world, that rises up quite a lot. And just, I think I've also gone through that whole journey of just saying it's Jesus. That's it. And being
That's it.
clearly
Bold.
and
Yes.
open about it and saying, me, Jesus.
Jesus, you, yours, whatever
Yes.
that looks like for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
God, I will be out and open
Yeah.
about the fact that Jesus is the foundation. I move with the Holy Spirit. And I'm seeing a lot more entrepreneurs also just be bold enough about that. And it's just so heartwarming because I think the Lord is doing something
Yeah.
in all of us, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Noma, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
this
you for having
conversation.
me.
This
Thank you for
was, yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
I think you've even helped my business more than you realize.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
Thank
call
you.
you one
Such an
day
honor.
and say, Sissy, just
Here I am.
yeah, Kumula, that day you said this and this is what I did and it helps. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I honor you. I
Thank
treasure
you.
you. I love the work that you do.
Thank you so
and
much.
It's always so beautiful. I always I say to the team when I wanted us to have the conversation again, I say to the team, there's something about Noma that resembles a woman who is fully grounded in a lot of different areas that we care about. In being a mom, we see you excel at that so well, and being a wife and fully embrace that and just be like a cute, amazing wife in her home and be a homemaker and also be a boss lady who's running this business and also be a friend and be playful. And I think whenever I see that, for me, it just resembles the woman I know we're all called to be. It's a great example for some of us who are coming
Thank you.
behind, and I treasure and honor and really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
So
and it's
thank
all
you.
because of, wow. It's all, not that I'm perfect in all these areas
Yeah.
that you've mentioned, but it's fully embracing myself and knowing that I am Noma Tshanga, and all other things don't define me. They just happen to be a blessing that God has bestowed in my life,
Yeah.
such as my family, my husband, my work. So they don't really define who I am. So I'll remain the person that I am in all those aspects. I will show up how I need to show up. I will cry when I need to cry, be vulnerable. But at the end of it all, I'm just human.
Yeah. I just want you to know that it's important that some women get to see that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's very important that we don't have to pick. We don't have to be like strong, bold, and that's it. You know, we can be all of these different kinds of people in different situations and have a full life with its ups and downs, but still embrace. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you
for
so
joining
much.
us. Sure. Resonate community, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. It was very heartwarming for me and that you were taking so many notes. It's like Noma has to give us a book. Like very soon, please, because I think there is so much need for entrepreneurs to have structure and intentional structure within their businesses, a handbook or something. But I learned so much from today and I hope that you did too. Let me know in the comment section, what did you really learn from today and what really spoke, to you in terms of your business and your life? She shared so many things, very vulnerable things and applicable tactics that I really believe you can implement today and get that change. So thank you once again, and we'll see you guys on our next podcast episode. Goodbye.